On this episode of the Bangkok podcast, we get into one of Thailand's most contentious topics, double pricing.
But first, we talk about selfies in a ball pit and hidden hipster hangouts.
Here we go with episode 2.33 of the Bangkok podcast. Hello and welcome to the Bangkok podcast. My name is Greg Jorgensen, a Canadian expat who came to Thailand on a vacation in 2001 and never left.
And I am Evo Terra, an American expat living full-time in Bangkok since the beginning of 2016. Thanks for joining us and welcome to the Big Mango.
So my friend, good to connect with you again, as always.
Yes.
What'd you get up to today?
We actually had oddly enough, Sheila wanted to go have dinner and then felt obliged in the sweltering heat to walk to the little market that's just up the road here on Chalamanakan, just I guess north of us here, right after you pass the Klong. I don't know if that's the Klong San night market, I'm guessing is what it's called, or the market. You know what I'm talking about?
Klong San market.
Klong San market. Yeah. We went there, and of course it's just a market, and she wasn't thrilled by that one. But we walked along the edge of the river, and we discovered this hidden area that is really cool called, I think, the Jam Factory and Summer Never Ends Restaurant and other little cool spots. Have you seen this place?
Oh, yeah, that's quite a well-known place. It's beautiful.
I don't know how well-known it is. I mean, because I had no idea it existed. But yes, it is quite beautiful. But it's kind of tucked away. You wouldn't, from the street, you would go, oh, I'm just in, another old rundown neighborhood of Bangkok, and then you turn the corner and go, holy cow, this is like hipster heaven back here.
Beautiful. It really is, yeah. You got people walking around with wool scarves and wool hats and tattoos and stuff like that.
It was quite interesting that we stumbled this little Thai hipster thing called Jam Factory, is guess what I'm calling it. But yeah, so clearly it's not new, but it was new to us, and so it was a pleasant surprise for an evening out in Bangkok.
It's a really cool place. And apparently, since the last time I was there, they've done some development and added a few new spots to eat and drink along the river there. So I should go down and check it out again. It's really nice.
Yeah, you should. What'd you do?
Not much. I just did some family stuff. Me and my son and my wife went out to Central Empty, or Central Embassy as it's properly known, the giant mall at Plunchit's BTS station.
Right.
And we just walked around a little bit. They have this really weird thing there now. It's called the Beach, and it's like this traveling, living art exhibition thing, and it's basically a giant box filled with they say 1 million white plastic balls, and it's visually it's pretty neat, and we were like, oh, that'll be fun for our kid to jump into and play around a little bit. So we went down there, and it turns out it's a giant box about the size of a shipping container, maybe a little bigger than that, actually probably about twice or 3 times as big as that.
Okay.
And the balls come up to your waist, would come up to my waist.
That's bigger than your kid.
Pretty much, yeah. It would make for some pretty funny video to throw them in, though. But we got there and we're like, oh, this is cool. So we went down and sort of came around the corner. And there was like 150 people in line waiting to get in. And it was already packed. And we looked in and it was just probably about 60 or 80 people in there. And they were all basically taking selfies. It was like this selfie squad.
And that's when you said, oh, that's right, I'm in Thailand.
Yeah, we just turned around. Let's just go and get something to eat and ignore this little thing. So it was visually an interesting place, and I'm sure you're going to see on Facebook over the next few days, if you're friends with these people, a lot of really interesting selfies of them looking like they're in a bubble bath with their clothes on. But yeah, we didn't end up checking it out, so we just did some mall things and came home.
Now I wonder, had you waited in line and got there, how much it would have cost your wife versus how much it would have cost you. That, my friend, is how you do a segue.
Well, that was pretty smooth, my friend, because tonight we're going to be talking about why dual pricing sucks. This is an episode called The Great Dual Pricing Debate.
Why don't you give a quick rundown of our audience who's saying, what is this dual pricing thing all about? Just a quick understanding so we can get everybody else up to speed.
Well, Evo, I'm glad you asked. Dual pricing basically is one price for this person and another price for this person. And it is by no means contained to Thailand. It happens all over the world. It happens in Canada, I'm sure, at a few places. It's especially prevalent in Asia and, from what I've heard, the Middle East. But I don't think it really happens anywhere with as much sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Bald-facedness as it does in Asia. And it's to the point where basically in Thailand, Thais pay this price and foreigners pay another price that can be up to 10 times the price that a Thai would pay at national parks and museums and things of that ilk. And it's a controversial issue because some people say you're talking a matter of dollars here, get over it. Other people take great offense in it. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. What's your experience with it?
Yeah, I definitely have encountered it. As you say, it's not uncommon for there to be kind of a hidden local price and another posted price for tourists. But that is not what I have encountered here. I have encountered that bald-facedness, as you mentioned. My first experience, I was in Western Thailand, and we went to a waterfall, and the sign clearly says, if you are a Thai national, you owe 10 baht, so 30 cents. But if you are a non-Thai national, then you owe 100 baht, $3.
Right.
10 times the different price. Now, again, it's $3 as opposed to 30 cents, so it wasn't a big deal, but it was my first experience in Thailand, was my first experience with this, to where there it clearly was saying, if you're local, this is your price, and if you are not, you pay more money. So that was it was my first encounter. So I had not experienced that before, so I was a bit taken aback, but clearly in the last, almost 2 years now, I've kind of gotten used to it. Doesn't mean I like it, but I've certainly gotten used to it.
You do get used to it, and I'll go on the record. I'll say it right out. I think it's a ridiculous, stupid, borderline, blatantly racist policy to have, and that's what it is now. It's a policy, and it's becoming more and more common for there to be signs saying, unless you have a Thai identity card, which is only available to Thai nationals, you are not getting the local price. It used to be that you could show your ID, like show your passport or work permit or Thai driver's license or something like that, and you could get the Thai price. But that's really getting cracked down on. So I think it's outrageous, and a lot of the excuses that people use to justify it, I think, can be pretty easily dismantled.
Well, give me an example of what you're talking about, because I'm going to try and see it from their point of view, because I'm younger in country than you are, so I haven't developed quite the same abject hatred of it, just the knee-jerk reaction. So what are some of the arguments you have heard why dual pricing in Bangkok and in Thailand in general is okay?
Well, Ivo, I'm glad you asked. Well, the biggest argument for it, pro dual pricing, is that, look, foreigners make more money than Thais,
right,
so they should pay more. They shouldn't mind paying a little bit more. You know, if Somchai over here makes 10,000 baht a month and Bob over here makes 100,000 baht a month, Bob really shouldn't mind paying 10 times more, especially when you're only talking a matter of like $6 or $7.
Right.
Okay, so using that argument, then it comes down to purely a matter of who makes more, of who has a bit more finances. Well, I've got Thai friends who make 3 and 4 and 5 times more than what I make.
Oh, yeah.
So should they pay more than me? And if that's the case, then are we all supposed to, show our pay slips to the park gate guy?
Right. Yeah. Do you have to show your taxes? Is that how it works out? Yeah, it's an interesting argument. And as you say, the general assumption here, which is kind of the root of the problem, is that when foreign workers come to Thailand, they get paid a premium. Now I can attest to that. I can attest to that as the guy who has no job and sits at home because his wife is a teacher making enough money in Thailand to support her deadbeat husband who sits at home all day. Now that's just not possible in America. Any of our American friends listening will know that it just doesn't happen. Teachers are not paid well in America. They are, however, paid quite well in Thailand if they have a master's degree like my wife does. But I know for a fact that the difference in salary between the teachers who are Western and the teachers who are Thai at the exact same school, teaching the exact same students, teaching different subjects clearly, but teaching the exact same students in the exact same school, are paid drastically less. So there is validity in the argument, whether you like it or not. The reality is that in general, foreign workers do, in fact, pay more than locals.
In general. Okay, I see that. I see that. It's a bit of a different argument, though, and I think that the fact that Thai people are paid less for the same job, I think that's a load of bull crap, too.
I'm
But
with
that's
you.
getting into a whole other can of worms.
I agree. I don't think we're going to go down that path. And like you, I think the argument is, I understand the argument, but I think the problem goes deeper than that. And the solution to that problem of not paying workers what they what they should be paid, whether I'm talking at the two guys that work at 7-Eleven, one cash register, and there are three other cash registers, so there's at least six guys behind the counter, whether that problem where they're all underpaid, or these teachers are underpaid, or anybody else is underpaid, there's a definite wage disparity, and it's not between Westerners and Thais. It's the fact that there are many people who work the routine, regular jobs cannot make a living wage in Thailand. That needs to be addressed. That's the difference between the haves and the have-nots within Thai society. And I know, I'm an American, and we have a very similar problem happening in America right now today. I get it. I do not disagree with that statement whatsoever. But it seems exacerbated here in Thailand.
True. Another argument pro dual pricing is that, Kylo and Khaleesi, two hipsters from Khao San Road who are in Thailand for a week, don't pay taxes to support things like Thailand's national parks,
Right.
Thailand's national monuments, things like that.
Right.
So they should pay more to do that. Okay,
Right.
well, if that's the case, I pay taxes. I pay a fair amount of taxes, and I probably pay more than some Thai people pay.
Exactly right. You likely do, especially because, like in other countries, it's based on income, and if your income is greater, then that would predicate you paying additional dollars for those same goods and services here. Now, there's rationale for this on the other side as well. If you rent a car in many of the states in America, or if you fly into certain airports in various states in America. I don't want to just make this about America, but that's where I'm from, people. It's what I know most about.
To be honest, everything's about America these
Exactly
days.
right. People who are tourists to those states pay an additional fee when they rent cars, when they book hotels, when they buy airline tickets. There is a built-in tourist tax, if you will, from interstate. In two different states we'll have that way. So we certainly have that here. So Thailand doesn't have something like that, or perhaps they do, but this is their ability to try and regain those dollars for the exact same reason. So there's definitely a precedent set out there for that one. Do I like it? No. Is it stupid? Absolutely, because we do pay taxes. Sheila, my lovely wife, pays taxes. I have to go pay them next week down at the tax office.
Oh.
And we are certainly. The argument against that, I think, is because the people have those two, I forget the names that you used for your backpackers in Khao San Road.
Kylo and Khaleesi.
Kylo and Carisi, yes, are spending lots of money while they're here. They're probably paying things beyond just the dual pricing tax, but they're paying way too much money for pajama bottoms and Chong T-shirts that will fall apart after 2 washings, right? So there's lots of money being injected into the system by those foreign tourists, of which Bangkok is it the number 1 destination now, right? Or Thailand overall.
It's either well, I think last year it goes back and forth between like Paris and Bangkok
Right.
as the most tourist visited city in the
So
world.
there's plenty of funds that flow in here. I don't know that we need to be gouging for then somebody wants to go to the Grand Palace for that as well.
What I said earlier when I opened the show was that in Canada we also have this, and the only incident that I know this happened was when I went to visit a provincial park, and the price for admission to the provincial park was greater for those out of province, which I understand because the funds from the maintenance of that provincial parks comes from provincial taxes. And if you live in British Columbia, I come in from Alberta, none of my taxes are going to
Sure.
to help upkeep the park, so I might pay an extra 5% or something like that, or whatever it is. That brings me to, I think, what is the most contentious issue around this, and that is when it's done in a backhanded, tricky way. And I've got no problem if a place wants to have dual pricing, like Thais pay this much, foreigners pay this much. They're totally allowed to do that, and I am also allowed to say, well, screw those guys, I'm not going there, and I'm telling everyone I know not to go there.
Right.
But it's what also sometimes happens is you'll have a price list, like say a billboard above an admission gate, and the prices will be very clearly marked in English with Arabic numerals.
Yeah.
And then right next to it, there is a giant price, the same information in Thai, but they use Thai numerals.
Right.
And it's sort of a shady, underhanded, tricky way to present information that almost every foreigner would be unable to process.
And it's weird, and you're wondering, well, why isn't it always like that? When you come to Thailand, you will notice everything written in Thai. Occasionally, things will be written in English, but all the letters are written in Thai. But their numbers, the Thais, they typically use Arabic numbers. 0
the numbers
through
that
9,
we're all used
the
to.
same ones you are. However, they do have Thai numerals, which you do not know. They're rarely ever used in sign, unless they're trying to keep something, likely from people like you and I that have yet to increase our Thai skills to the point where we can read numerals, let alone letters. So yeah, that's sneaky and underhanded.
Yeah, and that's the thing that pisses me off the most. If they're open and honest about it and say, look, foreigners pay extra, Thais pay this price, and foreigners pay way more. Okay, I get it. That's your policy, and I can choose not to go there. But it's when they try to trick you. I just think it's a real crappy thing to do, and it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. And I'm gonna go away and tell other people that they're being tricky as well. And it just leaves a bad feeling in people. And why would you want to do that?
I completely agree, and I think that is, as you say, one of the more egregious violations of this. But it's everything you're bringing up is to me is the root of the argument of why dual pricing sucks. Look, Bangkok is charging headfirst towards this concept of Bangkok 250, where Bangkok celebrates their 250th anniversary as the capital of Thailand. And there are massive projects underway in this town. We have 10 different railways that are under construction right now to try and, as some people will say, Singapore-ize this place so that in the next 15 years, it's a beautiful, wonderful place to come into that everybody wants to see. But the problem is, when you do crappy things like this, you wind up with a reputation that Spain had in the 90s. And that is it becomes
what was that? I don't know about this.
Actively hostile to foreign tourists because you're screwing them out of money nonstop because the government is kind of in on it, which will happen inside of Spain. And in the 90s, they got, I think it was the 80s as well, they got a great reputation of don't go there. Go to France, go somewhere else, go to Portugal, where they're not going to try and rake you over the coals just because you're a tourist. Something that Spain is just finally now crawling out of. Thailand needs to be careful of that. And again, I wake up every day saying, this is Thailand, and I can't fix Thailand. And I know I'm sounding a little bit preachy here, but you do run the risk. There are other places, other ASEAN countries nearby that would love to have Thailand's tourism that aren't doing the dual pricing thing. Take Cambodia, for example. Just got back from Siam Reap a few months ago, and I paid the same prices every Cambodian did. Even in the markets, everything was the same. I didn't feel like I was being raked over the coals at any point in time. So my cautionary tale, for what it's worth, which is absolutely nothing, I get it. However, I just have to say that if you keep it up, Thailand, you might run risk of losing that top tourist destination.
And I think that a lot of them don't realize is that something like this, when viewed through a Western lens, can quickly be perceived, right or wrong, as racist, as a racist policy, a government-sponsored racist policy. And that's, like I said, that might not be the case. And a lot of people say, well, it's not racist, it's economic. And I'm like, okay, well, how about the time I went to an attraction with a Singaporean friend, and who, by the way, makes like 4 times what I make.
Right.
And she paid the Thai price, and I paid the farang price.
Yeah.
It gets, I'm not saying that was right or wrong. And again, I knew it was going to be, I was going to be the charge of the farang price, and I could have chosen not to go. I went anyway. But it gets dicey, and you start to split hairs, and then pretty soon you're presented with, well, how about this situation? Well, how about this situation? And they're all different, and there's no single answer to every one of them. No. So it's a slippery slope.
Yeah, and that issue of racism is a tough one, right? I mean, you and I are from North America, where racism is pretty easy to spot. I mean, I think it's relatively straightforward on how we spot racism, and my country and yours as well has had a history of dealing with racism, whether they're from the indigenous people that lived there before us, or other groups of immigrants who've come in. But it's different here in Thailand, I think, and we should do a whole show on racism at some time in the future. But I know that the argument I've heard is that it's not racism, it's nationalism. Even if it's not economics, it's nationalism. We want to have nationalistic pride. We want to reward the people who are citizens, just like you are rewarded when you go to your country with various benefits that others don't get. And I kind of understand that until, as you said, when your Singaporean friend gets the deal, or when the group of Chinese tourists gets in, because they can. You and I stand out like really large white sore thumbs.
Yeah, no
Others,
kidding.
others who are, whether they're from Laos, whether they're from Cambodia, whether they're from China or other places, that are Asian, and it's hard to know what does a Thai look like as compared to some of the others that are here. So that argument of nationalism, I don't know that it holds water for me.
Right, and let's play devil's advocate here and flip it around a little bit. What say a Thai person or an Asian person came up to the Glenbow Museum in Calgary, where I'm from, and Kevin, the doorman, said, "Okay, oh, you're Asian, that'll be $40, whereas everyone else pays $10 to get in."
Yeah.
Well, why? Why? How can you justify that? Well, you're obviously an international traveler. You have much more disposable income than Kevin, the ticket seller guy here, does. So wouldn't it be okay for you to pay more than it? I mean, I can't imagine how quickly you'd have protests at the embassies. I
Yeah.
mean, that's a bit of a crappy analogy, and it's taken it to the extremes. But again, it's dicey. There's no one answer, and it's just, I don't know. You just risk going into places where you can't really easily recover from, like Spain did in your example.
Yeah, it's definitely tough, and as you say, it quickly devolves into a straw man argument. Right, you go down to the worst possible scenario, or the best possible scenario. But the reality is, it's on a spectrum, and there's good parts of it, I guess, or less evil parts of it, and then there are just things that are rotten about it. I think all that you and I can say collectively is that we hate it. We're not fans of it. We totally wish it would change. And I guess maybe that's the last argument I want to bring. Last question I have for you, Greg. If it changed tomorrow, and Thailand as a whole, definitely Bangkok, outlawed the dual pricing concept, and everybody bought into it. Every Thai person bought into it completely. So talking about taking extreme cases, that'll never happen. But if that happened, would the country be plunged into economic mayhem, or would it have absolutely no effect on the economy? What do you think?
I'm sure some purses somewhere would probably see a drop in something, but I can't see how it would have any long-term national financial crisis effect or anything like that. But
I can't either. I mean, who knows? Maybe there's someone out there listening right now who has their finger on the pulse of how much money the Grand Palace, for example, rakes in every day because
yeah, I'm no economist, so I don't know.
because they're charging 500 baht for admission, but Thais get in for free. I don't know. So yeah, we'll probably get lots of hate mail on this one because we are insensitive to the realities here. But damn it, this is about us. We're expats, and we don't like it.
Call it insensitivity. I'm saying if you want to do it, go nuts, but don't be deceitful about it. Let's be honest about it. Put it out in the open, and let me make my choice of going or not.
Yeah, that's a valid point as well. All right, well, I think we've beat this to a dead dual-priced horse.
I want to hear what our listeners have to say. Listeners, if you have an opinion on this, chime in. Come to the website and leave some comments. I want to hear what people have to say about it, whether we're being whiny little bitches or whether we have valid points. I don't know.
Greg's phone number is 6. I won't do that. So, but hey, we will transition now and switch and talk about everyone's favorite segment, or at least mine, of the program, and that is Love, Loathe, or Leave, where one of us, this time Gregory, will dump something interesting and weird about life in Bangkok on the other, and we find out if it's something that other person loves about the country, loathes about the country, or hates it so much they're ready to leave. And it's your turn. What do you got for me?
All right, you're coming downstairs, you get out of the elevator in your building, you exit the lobby, or a building, it doesn't have to be your building, but you come out to the parking lot, and the security guard, which most buildings in Bangkok has, who's probably sitting in a chair or just relaxing by the wall, comes to attention in such a violent manner
Yeah.
and clicks his heels together. And a lot of security guards have actual metal plates on the heels of their boots so they can go click like that and salutes you, kaboom, and just sort of goes way overboard with the officialness of being a security guard. Does that make you uncomfortable? Does it freak you out? Is it something that you find is a pleasant little quirk of Thai life? What's going on?
It definitely caught me off guard the first time it happened, which, by the way, was the first day I got into the kingdom. Coming out of the hotel, was saluted and I didn't realize that the metal plate thing in the shoes, because I wondered, how did he get his feet to click like that?
I know it's like getting two like bowling balls and smashing them together. Just this clunk.
No idea what he did. I thought it was like a special device that it made this noise, but no, that's what actually happened. So yeah, you see it all the time, and it's jarring your first time here because there's a guy in a uniform who then clicks his heels together and salutes you. Now, you and I know it's a security guard, and the first time it happened to me, I thought it was a security guard, and then that happened, and I wondered, did I stumble onto a parade grounds somewhere? Am I in a military establishment? What is happening here? It was quite confusing now. So, but now that I've been here for pushing 2 years, I actually am going to go with love, because I know I can get it. And what I love even more about it is when I startle the security guard because I've come out of the building a little early and he might be a little sleeping.
Yeah. And
as I walk by, he jerks out of his slumber, pops off of the plastic chair, and then tries to redeem himself with the whole click, salute, kaboom. That to me is just fun. I try and sneak by without waking him, but it's so far I've been unable to do so.
Yeah, I love it too. I think it's kind of an unnecessary, goofy little thing to do, but I find it endearing and fun. And I love security guards, man. I tell you that my biggest tip to people who are moving to Bangkok is be extra friendly to security guards. Give them snacks if you have any extras left over. Make friends with them, because those guys control what happens at your building.
Yeah, you definitely want those guys on your side.
Well, thanks everyone for listening to the Bangkok podcast this week. If you have anything you'd like to share or a topic you'd like to hear us talk about on a future show, leave a comment on bangkokpodcast.com, or you can reach out to me on Twitter, where I am BKK Greg.
Or you can send us a message either on Facebook or on Twitter at Bangkok Podcast. Oh, and by the way, Greg, they can also now reach us online. That's
Online.
Right. I set up an account for the Bangkok Podcast online, and I will link.
This is the first time hearing
I know, and it took me a while because it's all in Thai, but I managed it, I think. So I'll put the link in the show notes. If you would like to follow us online, please do. I can't promise we'll be great at it because it's line and we're not Thai, but we'll try. We are going to absorb the country that we are in now and try and communicate in the way that the rest. So all of our Thai national listeners, I expect you now to be rushing to our website and finding the link to line and following us, and we'll give you good news right there. But cool. Enough of that. I am Evo Terra. Greg and I will be back here next week with more stories of our lives lived in the City of Angels right here on the Bangkok Podcast. Cheers.
What have you gotten us into? Pretty soon we'll have to come up with our own set of stickers and stuff.